Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of the Pop Punk Podcast with me, T-Well Official, and my G-ass co-host, Mr. Daddy Mush.
What's up, T-Man? How you doing? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I actually slept very well last night, which is good, because I slept like absolute ass on Thursday night into Friday.
Oh, very nice. I wish I could say the same thing yesterday. Yesterday, it was all wonky. Went to bed at like midnight, woke up at 4, was up to like 7, went back to bed, woke up at 9.
Yeah, dude, like Thursday night, I was up until like 1 a.m. And then I woke up at like 6 a.m. Friday morning. But anyway, yeah, so I hope you're doing well as well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, no complaints. Decent enough day, but I'm excited for this episode we're about to do.
Yeah, me too. I'm also really excited. So for those who don't know, we were originally supposed to do an album review of Less Than Jake's new album that just dropped. As of the time of this recording, it dropped yesterday, December 11th. By the time this is uploaded, it's going to be the 15th. So it'll have been out for a few days. We were originally going to do an album review of Less Than Jake's new album, but I kind of realized, like, I think that we need a little more time on that one to really, like, listen to the songs and, like, get what we want to say, pick out our favorite tracks and everything. So we moved that. We're going to be doing that, in the coming weeks. And another album just recently came out. Goldfinger just surprise released a new album, Never Look Back. Came out on the 4th. And I figured, I was like, yo, because like I wasn't really ready to do the Less Than Jake album review, so I asked Ed here, I was like, do you want to do Goldfinger instead? And he said, let's do it. So that's what we're going to be bringing to you today. But before we do that, you guys already know, it's tradition. What have you been listening to this week, sir?
I've still been listening to a lot of If I Die First.
Very good. Very good band.
Been listening to my top 2020 songs playlist of the year just because. I've been listening to a Masquerade by Mest a lot.
Oh, the album in general or the song?
Yeah, the album in general. I've been wanting to, because I knew that dropped like months ago, and Mest was one of my favorite bands growing up, so I wanted to give the original lineup a good listen to, because their most previous album was just Tony Lovato and a bunch of randos. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that album came out a little bit before we started doing the podcast, so we didn't do an album review on that one. But I mean, we don't exclusively do new albums, so maybe in the future.
I mean, last time we did MFZB, which came out 17 years ago, for God's sakes. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't exclusively do new albums, so maybe if you guys want to hear it, let us know. Maybe we'll review Masquerade by Mest.
I also been listening to a bit more on the emo-y, kind of the emo-y mom rock of Dashboard Confessional as well, to kind of round everything out.
Very nice. I like the mom rock.
Well, I mean, that's how I was introduced to all that stuff, because my friend's mom in high school loved Dashboard and Secondhand Serenade, so.
I mean, I don't really listen to a whole lot of Dashboard, but I do enjoy the song Vindicated.
Oh, I mean, Spider-Man 2, my man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I have a soft spot for Dashboard. But what have you been listening to?
Alright, so for me, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to spoil the review, but I have been listening to Goldfinger's new album quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. That's a given.
And I've been also listening to, mainly by not only my top songs of 2020, but also the past playlist too, in particular 2019. And I mean, that's pretty much all I've been listening to this week. I've just been going through the playlist, like, top to bottom, and just listening to, like, all the songs I listened to throughout the year. My top 5 on the on repeat, Cannonball by Goldfinger, Shoebox Memories by Better Luck Next Time, Answer the Phone by Sugar Ray, I Thought I Farted But I Shit by Jeremiah Perez is my number 4. Infinite by Goldfinger is my number 5. And then, as always, because I did it one week, so I started doing it every week, my top 7. Tell Me by Better Luck Next Time is my number 6. And The Record by State Champs is my number 7. That's pretty much what I've been listening to this week. And yeah, I guess with that out of the way, we can hop into the main meat of the video. Never Look Back by Goldfinger. So yeah, it came out December 4th, 2020. And I'm not going to go too in depth because I don't want to take away from the rest of the review, but I definitely think it is an improvement over their last album, The Knife. I don't dislike The Knife. I actually have a lot of nostalgia for The Knife because The Knife dropped in 2017, which was right in the middle of like when I used to full-time stream to Twitch. So it reminds me of those days, and I do have a lot of nostalgia for the album, but the album is just like, it sounds like Blink-182's California. And it kind of made me retroactively dislike California because I'm a little more lenient for Goldfinger because it is John Feldman, so it is like pure John Feldman, like no outside forces. But when Blink hires Feldman, or like when any pop punk band hires Feldman, it just kind of becomes like John Feldman. And so, like, when I listened to The Knife and it sounded just like California, it just kind of made me realize, like, how much control John Feldman really had over New School Blink. But the album itself, I mean, I didn't hate it. I mean, it basically turned Goldfinger into a supergroup. Everybody from the band left, and it was John Feldman, and then it was Mike Herrera of MXPX on bass, Phil Sneed, formerly of Story of the Year, on guitar, and then Travis Barker of, obviously, Blink-182 on the drums. And it did pretty much just sound like, like John Feldman's usual, like, pop punk that he produces. And then with this album, like, Charlie Paulson came back, so, they have him on the guitar again, and then Travis Barker left, and they got a new guy whose name is Nick Gross on the drums. And this album feels a little more real, so to speak, than The Knife, if that makes any sense.
Yes, 100%.
Like, it doesn't, I mean, there's definitely a few songs that could pass for, like, Feldman era Blink, but it feels a lot more like Goldfinger. The ska songs don't sound nearly as forced as they did on The Knife. And the pop punk songs don't sound nearly as, like, Feldman generic as they did on The Knife.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed the big thing, too, is the tone of, like, the guitars and the instruments sound way more, I guess, quote-unquote, real and not so compressed or overproduced like you would hear on the California or any Feldman-produced album that's pop punk that you heard in like the past 5 years. So I mean, that's
John Feldman pop punk, and I don't want to disrespect Feldman. I know he's just a man trying to catch his bag, but it does sound very formulaic. And The Knife, it was like what's the word I'm looking for? It was like the shining example of, like, John Feldman pop punk, which makes sense because it's John Feldman's pop punk band.
Yeah. John Feldman, unadulterated.
Exactly. Like I said, no outside forces. I mean, I would have to look at the songwriters. I mean, I don't know if there's, like, any other songwriters, but what I mean when I say no outside forces is, like, when John Feldman produces for a pop punk band, what he does is he keeps just a little bit of their signature sound and then blends it in with his complete production style and writing and everything, versus with Goldfinger, like, it's just pure John Feldman. And that's essentially what The Knife was. The Knife was, by all, like, really was just a John Feldman album. But with Charlie coming back and Travis Barker leaving, no disrespect to Travis, I do think he's an incredible drummer, but he definitely helped a lot with the copy-paste kind of sound that The Knife had. So with Travis leaving and Charlie coming back, the album, it's definitely an improvement over The Knife. But I think we
Yeah.
talked enough about the overview. So I guess we can finally get into the track by track. So we'll start off with obviously track number 1, Infinite. And this is honestly probably one of my favorites on the album. I would definitely put it in the top 3. It kind of sounds almost like something you would hear from Mest, like one of their more serious songs. In particular, the chorus. Like, I could definitely hear Tony singing the chorus, Tony Lovato of Mest.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I absolutely love about this album, though, is they finally gave Mike Herrera his due. One thing that I thought was absolutely criminal on The Knife. As I said, I don't hate The Knife, but one thing I did dislike about The Knife is you had this amazing singer with Mike Herrera, right, playing bass. And his only vocal line on The Knife is like a wha-oh, which there's a lot of wha-ohs on The Knife. That's part of John Feldman's like pop punk like production style. His only vocal line on The Knife is a whoa, where he's auto-tuned to sound like Mark Hoppus. But on this album, and this isn't the only song with him singing vocals, but it's the first track, so it's the first one. And it makes me so happy to hear. Because that was like the one thing, like I felt so like blue balls. But I didn't want him singing an entire song, because it is Goldfinger, it is John Feldman's band first and foremost. I didn't need him singing an entire song to himself, but just like a verse or a bridge or something in a couple songs.
Backing vocals.
Yeah, it's just something to let us know, like, yo, you have 2 very talented singers in the band, not just one. And that's what we finally got on this album, and that made me so happy to hear.
Yeah.
Charlie also gets a stab on the vocals in verse 2. And don't really know how I feel about that one. I actually think that's probably what holds it back from being my favorite song on the album, because everything else about the song I think is amazing. I like just the overall pop punk vibe of it. I like Mike Herrera finally getting his due. I like the Mest-esque chorus. But I'm not a fan of Charlie's verse. I get, John Feldman really comes more from like the skate punk ska scene, where like having a raspy voice is it's seen as like cool or like manly. But I really don't like raspy voices in my pop punk, or I should say deep raspy voices. It just doesn't really mesh with the rest of the song, I would say. No disrespect to Charlie. I think, Charlie definitely had an influence on the songwriting that made it feel not so, like, John Feldman-y.
Yes, it's return to form, almost.
But yeah, singing's definitely not Charlie's strong suit.
Yeah, and I have a question for you. Is this Mr. Paulson's first vocal, like, legitimate vocal track on a Goldfinger song?
I would have to listen to every other one of their songs, but to my knowledge, it is.
That's a way to come back.
Yeah, I just want to stress I'm not 100% on that. I feel like I probably have heard every Goldfinger song at some point, but a lot of them I probably listened to like while I was playing games where I wasn't giving full attention to the song, so I might have missed it. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, it is.
Talk about a way to really, I guess, make your return to the band. I mean, it's his third stint with the band, so talk about a way to make his comeback on the first track of this first album back.
I know.
Let me tell you, man, I was shocked. Like, I was listening to it, I'm like, who is that? I'm like, I remember, like, I was reading your text messages when you first before I listened to it, and you said you're so happy that Mike Herrera finally has like a vocal part on it, and I'm listening. I'm like, did Mike Herrera like take up like smoking 20 packs of cigarettes a day? Because it sounds nothing like him.
Well, that did actually happen to Eric from Bowling for Soup. Like, he smoked so much that it did change his voice drastically.
Oh, I know. So when you were saying like Mike Herrera finally has a vocal part, I'm like, it's not him. That can't be him. And then I heard him again. I'm like, okay, that's Mike Herrera. So who's the other guy? Because they don't have the feature. So I was curious. And then he told me it was Mr. Charlie Paulson, and I thought that was a little interesting tidbit.
Yeah, it's definitely his only little vocal line on the album, possibly his only vocal line in the entire band. And
Good for him.
yeah, good for him. But yeah, no, I just Mike Herrera singing the bridge. It makes me so happy because I felt like it was real wasted potential on the knife.
Yeah, it's like you have like a dime. It's like you have gold bar, but you refuse to cash it in. You know what I mean?
Exactly, like just a verse or a bridge. That's all I need. That's all I need.
Yeah. At the
And
very least,
that's
noticeable backing vocals where you're like, oh, that's Mr. Herrera, not some random guy that could be literally anybody off the street.
I know. I thought it was kind of funny how his like little feature on Radio 2 by the Ataris, he sings like a real quick line, and it's funny, but in a sad way. How he's an official member of Goldfinger, but before this album, he had more vocal lines with the Ataris than he did with Goldfinger.
Oh, I know. But yeah, but that was but in all I guess with the song, this is a balls to the wall opening track, I must say, Infinite is.
Yeah, definitely top three. I don't know if it's my favorite. Maybe my favorite. I'll really have to think about it over the course of the review. But definitely top three material.
I'm gonna have to listen to like more of the album to give myself my full impressions of like where my track listens are, but it's definitely one of the songs where I found myself listening to repeat when I'm not just listening to the full album. So I'll give it that. But high energy, straight up pop punk, pretty much what you expect from a Goldfinger opening track at this point. A short 2.5 minute song with big powerful choruses, and yeah, like Herrera is back, baby. Or
Well, he
just
never
like new.
left,
Yeah,
but
it feels
yeah,
like
no, he's
they
singing, and that makes me happy.
yes, and that's cool. And Mr. Paulson is came back with a bang.
Yeah, infinite, beautiful opening track. When I
Yeah,
heard it, I was like, "Holy shit! This is like I'm already liking this better than the knife." And
yes,
you'll probably hear me compare this to a knife. You'll hear me comparing this to the knife a lot over the course of this interview or review, not interview. It's late. I'm sorry, guys. It's late. You'll probably hear me compare this to the knife a lot over the course of this review.
I mean, it makes sense. It's the second album with the new era of Goldfinger, considering they have two albums the last 3 years, and before that they didn't release an album in like 9 years. So
That's true. That's true because the album before the knife came out in like 2008, and then the knife
yeah,
didn't come out until 2017.
yeah, and it's a whole new lineup. So this is like pretty much like new Goldfinger meets classic Goldfinger with the return of Charlie. You know what I mean? It's the two eras of Goldfinger combining.
Yeah, exactly. But for the sake of not making this a 3-hour podcast, let's move on to track number 2, The City. To me, this one kind of sounds like a sequel to Get What I Need off of The Knife. It just kind of has that similar, like it's got that like really upbeat like ska vibe to it. But I gotta say though, as I said earlier in the podcast, the ska songs in this album like really don't sound forced. Like on The Knife, it kind of sounded a little like
Service.
yeah, it sounded like he was trying to say, "All right, guys, we got our roots in the ska scene, so that's clearly that's what people want to hear when they listen to Goldfinger. So let's throw a fucking ska song on the album."
Just throw him a bone, even though we really don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily they don't want to do it, but yeah, it definitely sounds like it's just like yeah, just put it on there because maybe it'll sell. I don't fucking know. But
Yeah.
wait, here I don't know, like with Charlie being back and the songs just sounding more real and less, like John Feldman like
Leftover.
factory ish.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound all that forced to me. Like it just sounds like like it's Goldfinger. They they pretty much always kind of been like a pop punk band with ska elements. Um, to the point where like one of their biggest songs is like a ska song. So
Superman.
yeah, Superman. The other song, the "Here in Your Bedroom" song, was also like pretty popular too, and that was also pretty ska-y. Um, at least that's how I've always seen them. I know a lot of people do see them as a ska band, probably because like I think like two of their three biggest hits are ska songs. It makes sense. But I've always seen them really more as a pop punk band with ska elements. And that just kind of continues on this album, like with The City. Versus with The Knife, it kind of. The ska songs on The Knife remind me of the joke songs on California. That's probably the best comparison I can make. Because it's. Like, with California, like, you know, it's all just really like John Feldman, all like, you know, just like that John Feldman sound. But then he throws a couple joke songs on there because I imagine it's like him telling like Mark Hoppus, like, yo, you know, you guys made some joke songs back in like 2001. That's what people like. So throw it on the fucking album.
You like, hey, these kids in '99, they like that song "Family Reunion." We're gonna make a song about pools and make.
Exactly.
We're gonna
Oh,
love it.
we're gonna make another song that has a crazy awesome riff. And then that's just gonna be the entire song. We're gonna make a joke about sticking your finger somewhere. And that's just gonna be the song. And then they realized that they blue balls to everybody, so like every single song on the deluxe edition started out with that little like nee 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 nee.
Yeah, but when you
But
do that for everything, it's nothing. But with the song "The City," I really like the chorus of the song though.
yeah, I do too. Um, definitely. Again, I know I'm gonna be comparing this to The Knife a lot, but I would definitely probably say this is an improvement off of "Get What I Need," off of The Knife.
Yes, and I guess for a general thing, there's way more like ska-y songs on this album than The Knife too, as well. Like, it's a return to roots album almost.
Yeah, and you know, well, obviously, like we're going track by track, so we will be talking about the full album.
Hmm.
But yeah, The City, it's probably my favorite of the ska songs on the album. Um, and yeah, I don't think I really have a whole lot else to say on this one. I think I kind of went off on a little like tangent about the
Yeah,
knife
but
in
I mean,
California.
yeah, but I guess I'll go. Like, the chorus to me is like really like it's the chorus is pure pop punk, and it's pure like, it's like a happy, joyful, almost juvenile, innocent lyrics too, about just driving to the city and just having a good time with the boys. And it's just straight pop punk, and the verse is like kind of a ska punk, but it's ska, so hard to make ska sound sad, so it's already automatically happy. So it's just a cool little like shift in the album, because Infinite is a loud, balls to the wall pop punk song with like a big kind of almost angsty sound, and
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
city
say
is more,
Infinite almost sounds kind of angry to me.
like I said, it has like this angsty tone, and the city kind of just switches gears to like this like ska influenced pop punk song, which just sounds joyful and like bouncy, and it's just a really cool dynamic because it's kind of showing you the two eras of Goldfinger kind of combining and colliding. It just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the album, and I like that.
I agree. Yeah, both songs kind of like the yin and the yang. Like the Infinite is the like the fast, aggressive like pop punk, and then City is like the upbeat, bouncy like ska.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess with that, I guess we could move on to track number 3, Wallflower.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, this definitely does how you were mentioning earlier, like a return to roots. I definitely hear that on this song. Like this song, I could definitely picture it kind of being on their very first album. I forget the name of it right now. I think their first album is just a self-titled album, actually.
Well, hold up. Give me two seconds.
Let's
Yeah,
consult the Wikipedia.
Goldfinger. Goldfinger is a simply titled, self-titled debut album by punk rock band Goldfinger. So there we go.
Okay, fair enough. It was just a self-titled album. But yeah,
Yes,
I
and
definitely. I definitely feel that on this track when you say this is a Return to Roots album. Definitely to me sounds like something that could be off their debut album or Hang Ups. Um, Originally I wasn't gonna really have a whole lot to talk about on this song, but as I was like listening to it again to really prepare for the review, I realized I actually really like the chorus. The chorus, kind of like what you were saying with the last song, it kind of almost does kind of switch to like a pop punky sound versus like the rest of it definitely kind of has like a more ska vibe to it. But the chorus does kind of switch gears into like more like pop punk, and it's very like catchy and just enjoyable. This one definitely doesn't have as much of the upbeat tone as the city. This one kind of has more of like a trying to find the right words for it. Like it almost kind of sounds like more urgent, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
I don't really know how to describe it, but it definitely has a more like a less upbeat, still like pretty fast, still like energetic, but definitely less of an upbeat vibe to it than the city. But so I definitely prefer the city to Wallflower, but they like the Wallflower is definitely still a pretty good song in its own right as well.
Yeah, it just feels like a continuation of the vibe and the sound the city is going with.
Yeah, and I guess this is another good example of like how it just kind of feels more real this time around. Because like I don't think I could imagine this one on the knife at all.
Yeah, I know. But it's also funny too that because how you said it's a return to sound or return to form. Because you type in Wallflower, Goldfinger, like they have like a single, I guess, album artwork, and it's like the same. It's like the same drawing as like the alien woman on the first album. And it's like they're really trying to, I guess, go back to that vibe of the first album because even the album artwork is Christina Applegate dressed as like an alien, not like an astronaut chick. So it's like pick
Yeah,
the first album artwork.
yeah, definitely. I would agree. Return to roots, return to form, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like it feels like almost like a pushback because the knife was obviously, as we said, like ad nauseum is a Feldman factory, and I guess people are like, "Well, this isn't really Goldfinger," so they're like, "Okay, this is real Goldfinger." With Charlie coming back, I have no complaints. It doesn't sound forced. It doesn't sound like cheap fan service just to kind of be like, "Well, the kids like this in '96, so let's just release it and sell some albums." No, I liked it. It sounds legitimately a good Goldfinger album.
I agree with that.
The song itself, though, it's like a not as good The City, but
Yeah,
still a good.
so this song I actually heard before the album like surprise released. I heard it in I forget if it was my Discover Weekly or my Daily Mix. And I was like, oh, Goldfinger's got a new song. And like I listened to it and it was cool, but I was like, it's alright. I just kind of listened to it and moved on. It wasn't until I heard like the opening track that I was really like, holy shit.
Yeah, so that's all I gotta say about that little nugget.
Yeah, so then I guess we could move on to track number 4, California on My Mind. And with this one, as I said, the city was kind of like the sequel to Get What I Need. California on My Mind is kind of like the sequel to Tijuana Sunrise, and it kind of has that like almost like not quite ska but too upbeat to be reggae kind of tone to it. And
Yeah, like 311-ish, as I call it.
I would actually say probably closer to Ballyhoo. For those that don't know, I'm actually a pretty huge Ballyhoo fan. I like them just because of how unique they are. Because they kind of have that pretty much like I don't really know
I
what to
don't know.
call them because they're like too slow for ska, too fast for reggae. They're just like chill and fun, and and I kind of get vibes of that on this song too. So like Tijuana Sunrise was also like I think that's another one, but that's kind of like just incredibly nostalgic for me because that was like one of the first singles they released off of the knife. Um, so like regardless of what I think of the knife, the song itself does hold a lot of like nostalgia power for me. So more of that just kind of gives me more of that like nostalgic feeling, if that makes any sense. Um, and I would actually probably place this song in my probably like I would say just because there is only 12 songs in the album, I probably would place it in the mid tier. Just because it's not a top 3 song for me, but I would probably place it in like the high mid tier. Because it's a nice little change of pace, and it sounds like Ballyhoo, who's a band that I really love. Like I could picture Ballyhoo making this song.
How about we call this reggae rock?
Possibly, but I don't see. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
It
You
feels
get
too.
labeled Ballyhoo.
It feels like too upbeat to be reggae to me. Like when I think of reggae, I think
Reggae
of songs
rock.
that are really like down, like like Amber by
A reggae
311.
rock. It's a fusion of reggae and rock.
I guess.
I mean, that's just what Wikipedia labels Ballyhoo, and that's the best way I can describe it. So
Yeah, but see, I don't
until
really
we
know
go
if I would
on,
label Ballyhoo as reggae rock.
all
I don't
right,
know.
man. Take it up with. How about you ask them, and then we can decide. But yeah, this is not a genre. Definitely not. This is not a genre. Philosophy course.
Exactly. Well,
But
the nuances of reggae and rock on the pop punk podcast. This ain't no reggae rock podcast.
yes, or whatever. I guess
Reggae
yes.
rock podcast doesn't even have the fucking alliteration in it.
Exactly. How about we call this sublimey sounding, as in the band Sublime.
I suppose.
Okay, well, we have to. Okay, well, we decide the perfect genre name.
All right. Well, it doesn't need a genre. It doesn't need a genre. We'll move on from that. That's old news.
Yes.
For the sake of moving on with the fucking podcast, what do you think of
But
this song?
I mean, I'm not as loving as you are about it, just because I do find it a bit more on the slower side of things, and I'm not the biggest, fan of that genre. Let's just go with. Uh, so I mean, I do appreciate the track just for the sake of variety and to kind of keep things fresh and keep you on your toes to let you know that like all 4 of these songs are on a different spectrum of what you expect from Goldfinger, and it's really cool. But as a song itself, it doesn't have the energy that I crave, for lack of a better term. But it's not bad by any means. You know what I mean?
It's understandable.
Yeah. And I just think it's funny how this song, like probably in my opinion, from the most like chill song of the album goes to the most crazy upbeat track on the album.
Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, it's like California Mind's a really chill, relaxing song. And then it goes right to Nothing to Me, which is probably the most
Okay, yeah, I see. I think I'll be honest, I'll hold Nell right there. I don't think I was paying full attention when you said that because I was like looking at the track list on Spotify while you were talking. So that's an L on my behalf.
That's all good, but I'm just saying, I think it's just
I
funny
actually, I was gonna comment on that too because I noticed there's a lot of 180s on this album. Like like Infinite's really angry to the city's really happy. California on My Mind is really chill, and then Nothing to Me is like another really angry fucking song. And we're gonna
angry list.
yeah, and I guess you know what? That's actually a good segue. Let's talk about track number 5.
You have a lot to
Nothing
say
to
about
me.
this.
I do have a lot to say about this one. This one,
skeptical in your theory because John Feldman is 50 something, and I feel like
well, let me tell my theory first, sir.
my apologies.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So
My
yeah,
apologies.
so this one, I think I would actually place it in my top 3. I it will probably rank a little bit lower, but I think it has like a type A Zebrahead situation where there's a certain aura of mystery to the song that kind of bumps it up for me and makes me want to listen to it. Until I receive confirmation otherwise, I'm choosing to believe that this song is a clapback, so to speak, at the former members of Goldfinger, the ones that called John Feldman fake news. Because it sounds very angry. It's definitely the angriest song on the album. Some of the lines just kind of it seems to point fingers, like like I'm not waiting for your comeback, as in he's like not waiting for him to come back to the band. You're worth less than a cent, meaning Goldfinger is pretty successful, and they're no longer a part of it. Feldman's got all his producer money, and they have like Superman royalty checks coming in, which in 2020, I don't really know how much money that's bringing in.
At least I got the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remake, so there's
That's
that again.
true. That's true. It was rated best sports game at the Game Awards. But and then You Are Nothing to Me obviously speaks for itself. I Owe You Nothing again probably speaks for itself. He probably feels like he doesn't owe them shit.
Yes.
Now, okay, so there is evidence that points that it could not be about them. I really don't think Mike Herrera would agree to sing his part if it was indeed about like older members of the band. I feel like that would be a little harsh on his part. But I don't know. Everything else just points to it, and I just that's what I'm choosing to believe until someone comes out and says that it's not. I'm believing that it is.
And I did some research, so I feel like I can see where you're coming from, but let me just give my rebuttal just for the sake of content.
Okay.
Mr. John William Feldman was born in 1967, which makes him 53 years old.
I like how you gave the background. John William Feldman was born in 1967.
Yes. But I'm just picturing a 53-year-old man with bleached blonde hair just writing an angry letter about some old people that you knew for 30 years. So I'm just thinking, I'm just laughing, thinking about a 53-year-old man just being so angry at people.
I mean, hey, though, my rebuttal to your rebuttal.
Let me continue, though.
Okay.
And I always feel like that there's always the thing where maybe he just wanted to write an angry song, or it could just be about, I don't know his personal life, but an ex-wife. But there is some evidence that supports your case,
Okay.
my good friend. I want to get into this because I like to give both sides of an argument because I like to be right in the middle. Mr. What's his face? The last, I guess, of the classic Goldfinger members who left the band was Darren Pfeiffer, who left in 2016.
Yes,
And
the namesake of the live album, Darren's Coconut Ass.
Okay, how about that? I did not know that. But Mr. Pfeiffer left the band due to personal disagreements with Mr. Feldman. And after I read that, I see, maybe I can see where you're coming from with that theory of yours.
Yes, and I think my rebuttal to your rebuttal that he is 53 years old. You're right. Any normal 53-year-old man would probably just not feel so strongly about something like that. But first off, Feldman is no ordinary 53-year-old man. I mean,
yes, most 53-year-old men are not bleach blonding their hair still.
Exactly, and I mean the first lyrics of the chorus are "fuck you" and "fuck that," which are not typically words I would hear coming out of a 53-year-old man's mouth.
Yes, and this 53-year-old man is also in the studio with Teenage Heartthrobs and Five Seconds of Summer, so he obviously has a young soul, to say the least.
Yeah, so I would definitely say Feldman is certainly young at heart. And
yes.
on the other, more, I guess, grown-up side of things, as you said, he knew these guys for 30-some years. When you know somebody for 30 years, you begin to bond, and you begin to, become like almost like brothers. So, if they did leave over personal disagreements and things got pretty heated, I don't care how old you are. If he feels hurt, then that could be just coming from a place of hurt. Or if he feels angry over the situation, that could, he could be coming from a place of anger.
Yes, and I just want to give a bit more backlog because I'm reading this on Wikipedia, and I think my favorite, because I love irony more than anything in this world, that because when Pfeiffer said that he left the band due to personality conflicts with Feldman, conflict about Feldman on an episode of Mike Herrera's podcast, of all people.
That is very ironic. Oh, if
Yes, and I
only
also
he
don't.
knew. And this was like 2016 as well, so this was like almost immediately before he became in the band.
So Feldman was planting seeds. We're playing checkers, and he's playing 4D chess. I don't know what to tell you, man. He's like the Illuminati. He has a plan in a hand in everything. But
I didn't know about that. That's ironic.
I know. I just that's just hilarious. But yeah, but I guess the actual song outside of the lyrics and story is probably one of my favorite songs on the album. I must say. I love fast, angsty, quick pop punk songs, and this is the definition of it.
Yes, this is absolutely it. If I have any gripe about this song, it's probably just that it's a little too short. Because it clocks in at like I think like a minute 50. So it even misses like the 2 minute mark. I definitely
Yeah.
think there could have been a solid bridge somewhere in there, but it just kind of ends after verse 2.
Hmm.
So I definitely feel like there was room for more. But that's just a minor gripe for the sake of the podcast. Overall, I said it's probably my third of my top three. So yeah, with all that said, it maybe it would have ranked a little bit lower to the next song if it weren't for the mystery behind it. Like, not unlike Type A when we reviewed MFZB, where like Type A probably wouldn't like Type A if it wasn't for the whole "I think this is about Justin" thing. Well, Nothing to Me would still be a great song, even if it was just a generic like "I don't like you" type song. But I think
Hmm.
that the mystery of I think this is about the former like Goldfinger band members, in particular probably Darren, because I know like with that I think that got a little heated, and I think that's what bumps it up to top three material for me.
Yeah. And Charlie was probably like, "Yo, I don't know songs written about me. Yo, Feldy, can I be on this album?"
Yeah, so I guess the only real thing that makes me think it might not be is just the whole Mike Herrera thing. I don't know if he would agree to sing on it if he knew it was about Darren. But you know what? Just like with Type A, I mean they made that song. I'm choosing to believe they made that song while Justin was still in the band, released it on the album Justin was still a part of, and I would assume they just told him it was about something else. So you know what?
Or
Maybe he told Mike Herrera the song was just a generic like "fuck you" type song, so that Mike would sing his verse.
yeah. Or, it could be another theory of mine is that like maybe the old band members got mad that they weren't getting like money for the song Am I Deaf from the Knife. So maybe saying I owe you nothing.
I
So
mean
he
that
wrote the song.
that could be it, cause
Another
I don't.
theory of mine per se.
I,
Another
I
theory.
yeah, like I don't really know a whole behind the scenes thing. "Am I Deaf" is probably my favorite song off of The Knife, and they released that song back in like 2013, I think, off of
Yes.
what was originally at that time going to be their seventh album, like before The Knife, like with the original members.
Yeah.
And then he did re-record it with the supergroup lineup on The Knife. And yeah, at that one, I guess that's just probably a big like gray area, because I don't know if it was only Feldman's writing. Because if it was only Feldman's writing and he re-recorded it, then he might technically be in the right to not give them royalties. I don't really know about all that. I'm not saying it's like morally right, but legally, I think he would be in the right if he wasn't giving them royalties. If he was the sole songwriter for "Am I Deaf," and then he re-recorded it with Mike Herrera, Phil Sneed, and Travis Barker. But yeah, it's still. I mean, that definitely would lend credence to your theory.
Yes, but man, I love John Feldman episodes because I can just go off on tangents about everything
Oh,
because he's the
I
most
I
interesting
know.
guy in pop punk. I love it.
Oh, I know.
I, I love
It's because
him.
he's legit in like everything. He's like the Illuminati of pop punk music,
Oh, I know. It's like what he says happens.
and he's just in. He's in or produces everything. Like seriously, look up his producer credit. I actually found out that Jaden song that I like, "So What," that was produced by John Feldman. I didn't know that because it doesn't sound like his typical like pop punk stuff. But
How about
yeah. But again, for the sake of not making this a 3 hour podcast, I had a lot to say on that song, but for the sake of keeping it, nice and watchable, let's move on to track number 6, Good Guy. This song, I think, just misses my top 3. It's still really good. I still really like it. It's still one of my favorite songs on the album. I'd probably still put it in the high tier. And it's still, like, beautiful, like, pop punk. I just think it misses out on the top 3 because I don't really think there's any, like, extra oomph to it that kind of elevates it above any of the songs in my top 3. Whereas we're gonna talk about my number 1 later, so I don't want to give that away yet. But like Infinite, like that's the opener. It's like really in your face, almost sounds like messed at parts. And then Nothing to Me, like I said, I love how that may or may not be about their former members. Good Guys is pretty much catchy pop punk, and that's kind of it. So that's why I think it just kind of misses the top 3. But I do think I would put it in my top 4, though.
Yeah, I mean, Good Guy is definitely one of my personal, not one of my, I mean, yeah, it's a great song. I like it. It's definitely high tier for me. Like I said, I haven't listened to like enough of it and didn't get the new album hype to really have a formulaic, like, top, I guess, list per se. But I mean, I like the verses a lot. And the chorus to me, for whatever reason, falls a tad short for me.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. I definitely was actually going to say my favorite parts of this song isn't the chorus, but the verses.
Yeah, like the verses, I just like the general tone of, Feldy's voice, the vocal melody, just everything. And then the chorus, his voice doesn't seem to have enough oomph, if you know what I mean. It seems like it's too empty, his singing.
Yeah. This is another song that Mike Herrera does sing a verse on, though, so that definitely, it has that going for it. But
Yeah,
I think I would agree that it's not necessarily that I don't like the chorus. It's just one of those rare cases where I think I actually like the verses better than the chorus. I'm a sucker for like like the little like those like palm mutes like during like verses. I'm a sucker for that shit.
The verse sounds like full, it's catchy. I like the palm muting, and the chorus, it just falls a tad flat for me. But that's a shame because it got Mike Herrera, awesome verses, and the chorus, which is the hook, which sells the song, it just kind of falls a bit flat. But it's still a good song. It's still your Goldfinger pop punk, and if you like pop punk and you like especially John Feldman pop punk, then this is a good song for you.
Agreed.
It clocks in at a perfect 2:36, so it's a good filler song where it's not like dragging, but it's good and it's enjoyable.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because I think that's exactly why it doesn't make top 3 for me. It just kind of, compared to my actual top 3, it just feels kind of fillery to me. Just,
I guess if you're gonna say like fillery, it's good that your fillers are shorter than they are longer.
Yeah, that's true. Like I don't like. There's just nothing that sticks out that makes me want to listen to it on its own. If I'm listening to just single tracks off the album and not the whole album itself, there's nothing that just makes me want to listen to it by itself. Versus, I probably would listen to Infinite or Nothing to Me or my number 1 pick that hasn't been announced yet, and I don't want to announce it for spoilers. I mean, it's still very solid at what it does, and I would still put it in my high tier. Probably still would put it at actually number 4.
Okay.
It just misses my top 3, just because, like you said, it's just kind of fillery.
Which isn't a bad thing. It just,
Yeah, I mean, it just exists. Like, albums are typically anywhere from like 10 to 14 tracks. So most albums are gonna have their filler songs. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, moving on?
Yeah, I guess we can move on then to track number 7, The Best Life. And this one I think I would actually probably put lower tier. I was gonna rate it probably my lowest, but when I was listening to it again earlier today, it kind of reminded me a little bit off of something that could have been off of Disconnection Notice, and I do think Disconnection Notice is probably my overall favorite Goldfinger album, so it does have that going for it, and I think I wouldn't place it as my least favorite song on the album for that specific reason. But just how Good Guy was kind of like the fillery pop punk song, The Best Life is kind of the fillery ska song to me.
Yeah,
But obviously I don't like ska quite as much as I like pop punk. So whereas Good Guy has that going for it, The Best Life just kind of falls a little flat for me.
I will say that as a bass player, a lot of the ska songs get more saved for me because ska always has cool little walking bass lines. I always appreciate that. So even when the song may
Oh
be a
yeah.
bit more boring or not as interesting as a pop punk song, just because pop punk has a lot going on, I do appreciate a good walking bass line that a ska song
Oh
does
yeah,
bring
and
me.
and and I'm not trying to say by any means that I dislike ska. I know I've said in the past on the podcast I'm not the hugest fan of ska, but I don't dislike ska. I just prefer pop punk. Um and yeah, so like it does kind of in my opinion sounds like something that would be on Disconnection Notice. I mean the chorus is catchy in its own right. I actually when I was listening to this when I was driving around last week. And this was like my third or fourth time listening to the album all the way through. And then when this song came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why have I not heard this yet? I was like, I had listened to the whole album, like front to back, multiple times. So it just kind of has, it's kind of forgettable for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, if you have anything else to say.
Uh, yeah, I think I'm pretty good.
All right, and then with that said, I think we can move on to track number 8, Careful What You Wish For. Featuring Monique Powell from Save Ferris. Feldman's using his ska connections on this one, which is
Yes,
weird
and it's not.
because yeah, this is not one of the ska songs on the album. This one's actually probably the first true song, in my opinion, that sounds like kind of new school Blinkish to me.
Yeah, like this sounds a lot like that opening like verse. It just sounds like it should be Mark Hoppus, or even to an extent, it sounds like it could be like an MGK song. Like it just has that vibe, like you would get with like Bloody Valentine or something, or a new Blink
Yeah,
song.
it's definitely got that like that clean guitar, which I mean Blink doesn't own that. Like they didn't create that. It's obviously existed before, but I definitely think they kind of brought attention to it within like the pop punk genre. So I think just having that like guitar tone is already gonna kind of make your song sound a little bit like new school Blink.
And
Um,
considering it's Goldfinger and
yeah,
who
exactly. Considering who is pretty much Blink's go-to producer now, it definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and definitely like yeah, if verse 1 would be Mark Hoppus's verse, then verse 2 would probably be Matt Skiba's verse. Where
yeah,
where
and
verse 2 is Monique Powell, but yeah, verse 2 if this were Blink would probably be Skiba.
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this is not Monique Powell's first rodeo as a Goldfinger feature.
Yeah, no, I do believe she's on something on Hello Destiny, which is their 6th album.
Uh, and I don't want to get demonetized for the song title, but it is simply titled "Hand Jobs for Jesus," also featuring Burt McCracken of the Used, which still sounds like a made up name.
Yeah, oh, and that is something that I did want to talk about a little bit that I forgot to during the overall like introduction to the album. Feldman did kind of dial it back a little bit on the features for this album, which I guess is kind of neutral. Cause like I feel like features were kind of like a staple for Goldfinger all the way back to Open Your Eyes back in like 2002. So that does kind of blow a little bit, but it's kind of canceled out by the fact that on the Knife, he had all these features on songs that like he could have just had Mike Herrera sing. Like I feel like on the Knife, he kind of took away like what could have been Mike Herrera's parts for just some features. So I feel like that kind of cancels it out. I'm mostly neutral about it. I don't really feel too strongly either way.
Yes, because the knife had 4 features. It had Takahiro Moriuchi of the Japanese rock band One OK Rock. Uh, Orthodontist Girl featured Josh Dunn of 21 Pilots. See You Around had his best friend Marky Hoppus of,
His best
and then
friend
Liftoff
Marky
featured,
Hoppers.
Liftoff featured Nick Hexum of 311, another one of his little boys.
Yeah, I think Liftoff is actually another song I'm weirdly very nostalgic about. Cause actually another thing I wanted to say that I forgot to. The Knife is actually the first album I reviewed, like, ever. Like how I said, it came out during the full-time stream days. So what I did was I did a not album review because it was literally on the day that it dropped. I did like a first impressions type stream where I just like listened to it and I like talked to chat and we just all kind of listened to it together. So I don't know. Lift Off is just one of those songs. Probably because I didn't really listen to it as much after the fact. So it just kind of holds that like a nostalgic value for me, if that makes any sense. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, this song in general, like, it does sound a little new school Blinky, but um, I actually don't really think it's all that bad because like it's the first real song on the album, in my opinion, that does kind of sound like just Blink leftovers. And as I said earlier, I am a little more lenient when it's Goldfinger because this is like pure John Feldman. Like this is what like is on his mind. No like outside forces. Um, Aside from like whatever songwriters may come on the album, but like it doesn't make me think like, oh, he's stripping away all this band's control for his own like producer control because he is pretty much the band. So I am a little more
Yes.
lenient with that.
And
And as I said before, like Blink didn't invent the clean guitar tone. Like I would definitely say they popularized it for pop punk, but it's existed for like ever. It was in a lot of like 80s songs.
I mean,
So,
well, clean guitar's been around since the electric guitar even existed, so.
well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Like
Yeah, you're
the particular tone I'm talking about in this song, I feel like is actually pretty common in like new wave.
oh, the little reverb as well on top of it.
Yeah. So like Blink, they didn't invent it. They don't own it. So just saying it sounds like Blink because of that is a little. What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe tone deaf is the right word.
Got the full picture.
Although it definitely does kind of put it in your mind, since I would argue that they popularized it for pop punk.
And knowing that it's Goldfinger and who pretty much writes Blink, it's you have to think about it, you know what I mean? You make that
Yeah.
connection right away.
Yeah, but I mean, so I would definitely still put it low tier, but I wouldn't put it at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, the song exists to me. I'm not really the biggest fan of it. It's definitely a song that, like, the choruses don't really do it for me, and, it's
Yeah,
just
it's kind of funny. Um, Hearing John Feldman say "fuck," it's just so weird to me because like he is 53. I mean, we've talked before that he is not your normal 53-year-old, but it just
yeah.
always feels so weird to me hearing him say "fuck." Because I don't know, it's just very weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, all you gotta do is do a quick Google image search of him in 2020 and just need to know everything.
I know. Um. So yeah, I mean that. I think I pretty much said everything I need to say about this one. It's definitely low tier. And it's the first true Blink leftover sounding song to me, but I don't know if I'd say it's the worst on the album. So, unless you have anything else you need to say, we can move on to the next track.
It's definitely a bottom tier, and it's definitely one of my least favorites. Like I said before, probably 5 times before, I haven't listened to. I only can get list one, like, I guess the new album hype dies, and I see what resonates with me after the whole pool. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's definitely a bottom tier track for me, and I'm ready to move on.
Okay, yeah, then we could move on to track number 9, Cannonball. And this would probably complete my top 3. This would probably actually be my number 1. Um, just because it's just pure pop punk and I fucking love it. Um, if I have one gripe with the song, just for the sake of the podcast, they put like some weird effect on the guitar in like the second half of the beginning that I'm not really crazy about. Like it kicks when it starts off, it kind of has that like kind of like I don't know what that effect's called, but it sounds really cool. Like it sounds like the song hasn't fully kicked in yet, but it's going to, and it's going to sound awesome. And then it kicks
Well,
in. It's called the what?
I don't know the exact tone, the exact keyword, but it's like almost like a radio or a lo-fi effect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got that little like lo-fi effect to it, and then it kicks in, then it sounds awesome. But then they put this kind of like weird effect on the guitar. It's like wow, wow, wow,
Yeah,
wow. That I don't really like. But that's just me being nitpicky for the sake of the podcast. It's a really good song. It's just pure pop punk. I like the verses. I like the chorus. I really like the bridge. I think the bridge sounds really cool. Um, it's just overall, it's just a fucking banger from start to finish.
and it's a good change of pace because we've been during this time frame. I feel like we've been getting a bit more ska-y per se with the few recent tracks with the best life and careful what you wish for. So it's nice that they pick it back up a notch. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I'd say "Careful What You Wish For" was a ska song, but
You know what I
definitely,
mean?
yeah,
Especially more slow.
we definitely like left the filler territory on our back into like banger.
Yes. Well, yes, I'm
um,
happy that they kicked off back into a hard hitting pop punk in your face track after one and two like two songs of relax and more slower tracks, I would say.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that bridge though, that bridge is fucking cool. I like it, like
Yep.
kind of like slows it down, but it doesn't slow it down like a boring way. It slows it down, and it's like okay, they're bringing it down. It's gonna kick back up, but it's like almost like it's almost like I don't really know if it's like building necessarily, but it's like they bring it down in such a way where it's like it's gonna come back and it's gonna be hitting hard again.
It's like a roller coaster. It slows down at the top of the hill, but then you're gonna go right back down being fast in a second.
Yeah, and it's just it's an incredible song. It's just really fucking good. That's all I really have to say about it. Like that's what kind of puts it at my number 1. It's just really good. Like it's 100% like something I want to listen to.
Yes, and I like the pre-choruses too. I love pre-choruses where it's like like where it's like more like kind of like accented and kind of choppy to really kind of, have accented. I like that a lot because brings a lot of energy. Like this is the part of the song where you're jumping or about to like, gotta get ready to crowd surf or punch somebody.
Yeah, and then it just leads into the fucking chorus, which is just amazing and energetic as shit. And it's just like, all right, yeah, this is just let's all like get up and fucking run around and like let's be wild.
Yeah, it's definitely a great like it reminds you that this band's also a pop punk band. They can still put out the fast pop punk bangers on top
Yeah,
of the.
like I said, this may be a hot take, but I've always seen Goldfinger as a pop punk band with ska elements.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
feel like
maybe even more so than Less Than Jake, because Less Than Jake, they at least still like they do still put like horns and shit into their songs, whereas Goldfinger, although they do still have ska songs, I feel like a lot of their songs now are just pure pop punk.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it depends what era of Goldfinger you grew up with. You know what I mean? Like if you're more into like the disconnection notice and a open your eyes era, I'd say you're more inclined to call them a pop punk band. If you like their 90s and stomping ground, I would say you're more inclined to refer to them as a ska band. You know what I mean?
That's true. Although I would say my favorite song by them is probably Mabel, which is from '96. But I would actually consider that a pop punk song.
Oh yeah, that's just there's no horns in that song at all.
No, there's not.
Yeah, so I mean,
But
yeah,
yeah,
Open Your
so
Eyes and Disconnection Notice are pretty much if you like those two songs, then they're pretty much a pop punk band for you.
yeah, and Cannonball is just a continuation of that. If you like pop punk, this is it. This is your song on the album. It's just pure, energetic, fun pop punk. Um,
Yeah, so that's all I gotta say about that. It's definitely one of the better, if not one of the three best songs. I'll definitely say it's one of the three best songs on the album.
yeah, and for me, it definitely takes the number one spot. So then, yeah,
All right, well,
I guess then we can move on to track number 10, Golden Days. And I think for this one might actually be my least favorite. Just for the
really
simple
no.
fact of there's just nothing about the song that really jumps out at me. Like, the chorus is pretty catchy, I guess. But, like, even, like, the Careful What You Wish For, like, yeah, that's definitely bottom tier for me. Probably my second least favorite, but it's at least memorable in the sense that it's the first true Blink leftovery type song on the album. And The Best Life, that has the whole, like, it sounds like it could be on Disconnection Notice going for it. But Golden Days, there's just not really a whole lot about it that just jumps out to me.
True. Well, I mean, I like it because it feels, enjoy lyrics, especially from a 53-year-old man who asks where the golden days are at. Like an angsty 22-year-old who's not 16 anymore. So that gives me a little laugh. But, it's
Yeah, it's funny. The song, lyrically, it just kind of seems to me like it's just John Feldman being a boomer.
yeah, like he's thinking like, damn, these kids ain't listening to Dave Matthews anymore.
These kids ain't listening to John Feldman anymore. What the fuck happened?
Yeah, so I mean, there's that. But I mean, just I don't dislike the song. I actually kind of like the song. I will consider "Careful What You Wish For" my least favorite song. It's just kind of a come down from what Cannonball. You know what I mean? Like it kind of like takes the wind out of your sails from Cannonball because Cannonball is just
Yeah,
a high energy pop punk song and it kind of goes back to mellowy ish.
yeah, and I also want to stress that I don't dislike the song. It's just kind of nothing about it particularly jumps out at me.
Hmm.
That's I think that's really all I have to say about that one.
Yeah, I mean you're getting towards the end of the album and like I said, when you're fit, I guess like you said, only the true rare albums can be bangers from start to finish. So there's that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't have anything else to say, we could just move right on to track 11.
Dumb. Yeah, sure.
Dumb. And this one definitely there's not really it's kind of a continuation of Golden Days. There's not really a whole lot that jumps out at me about this one, but one thing it does have that Golden Days doesn't, that chorus is just so fucking catchy. I'm a sucker for when they say shit like, you make my heart go boom boom boom.
I was gonna say I like the weird, like onomatopoeia, almost like
Like, yeah, like
doo
it's just like that like cheesy, goofy like love song type deal.
like yeah,
It's got that little John Feldman edge. He's saying everybody's dumb except you. But it's just, and don't get Golden Days has a decently catchy chorus too, but this one is just incredibly catchy. Man, it gets stuck in my head. I love the little, like you make my heart go boom.
yeah. You know how?
And maybe it's corny, but I love that type of shit.
Yeah, like when it's done right, I do love a very like this stuff. Like don't like the lyrics of these songs remind me something you would hear of like a 1950s, 1960s doo wop band where it's just this gooey, cheesy love song, and it's just a happy song. You know what I mean? You can't really be sad listening to this song. So
Yeah, exactly. It's just a cheesy love song.
and also I feel like this is what like Fight Fire was trying to go for. With California Kicks was this song.
Except, yeah, California Kicks just kind of missed the mark.
Like, yeah, the album is quite a treat.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that.
yeah, I like Dumb though. It's just a fun kind of sky surf rock song with the whole finger edge, and it's fun bass line, catchy chorus, silly lyrics, but the lyrics aren't like. I'm just once again picturing a 53-year-old writing this to like singing this to some girl on the beach and thinking like she's gonna love me now. God damn it!
I
Just
know
bleach my blonde hair.
these a lot of these lyrics are kind of goofy when you realize John Feldman is approaching his mid-50s.
First of all, I don't know. Obviously, you don't know this because obviously we're at different houses, but the entire time I just been looking at pictures of John Feldman in 2020 the entire time as we review this album. Kind of bring me back to reality of what I'm listening to right now.
Oh, I know, it's so funny. It's so funny.
And I love how they brought back the whole like suit aesthetic. Like they're all wearing like pinstripe suits. Like it's like 1996 again.
Oh, he's letting you know he's all corporate now. He's a big shot producer, but he still likes to rock.
Because Mike Herrera rocking cut off shirt with showing off his tats, and then you got Feldman just with his bleach blonde hair and his gray beard with his pinstripe suit on.
God, yeah, looking at Goldfinger, I think that's actually their picture on Spotify. It's just them all posing like in their suits.
Well, God bless them. But
so yeah, I guess
Dumb was a good song. I like it. It's definitely one of those yep. I have confirmation that they're all pretty much wearing suits. But Dumb. I like it. It's definitely a good change of pace.
Yeah, it's just some songs like it probably would be forgettable, but that chorus is so freaking catchy. And I mean, I hate when like the only thing I have to say about a song is the chorus is catchy, because I feel like that's a cop out. But like, listen to Dumb and you'll see what I mean. The chorus is just really like it's an earworm. It's an earworm is what it is. That's the best way to describe it. It's an earworm.
Yeah, because the first time I listened to this, I'm like, what are these lyrics? Like, this dude's 53, and you can't go you dumb, but you don't get monetized. But like, it has a catchy hook, and you just want to be like a little, you know what I mean? It's just fun.
Exactly. So I guess with that being said, I guess then we can move on to track number 12, the closing track. Standing on the Beach. And you know what? I think I actually lied. I think this might be my number 4. I think Good Guy just got bumped down to number 5. Because this song isn't as forgettable as Good Guy to me. Like, this song, I don't really see it as a filler song. I actually see it as a really good closer. It does kind of do like the whole clean guitar thing, like Careful What You Wish For, but it just does it better. The chorus is just pure pop punk. But the thing that I love the most about this song, the thing that really bumps it up into top 5 territory for me, is I love the synth. The synth, even though the song came out in 2020, the synth evokes nostalgia. And I think I actually know why. I think because it reminds me of the type of song that would have been in Jam. For those that don't know, Jam was a game on the Xbox 360. It gave you the pieces of a different, like all these different songs. It gave you the pieces of the song, and it let you mix them and however you wanted to mix it together. And the synth just kind of sounds like something that would have been in like a Jam song. So the synth, very nostalgic, despite the fact that the song dropped this year. The fact that the song dropped this week, basically. Well, no, I guess it's officially last week now. But the fact that it dropped last week, but it's still nostalgic to me. I love the synth. The chorus is just pure pop punk. The verses are pretty chill. Mike Herrera gets a vocal line in this song, which is always a plus for me. So yeah, I think that bumps it above Good Guy. Because Good Guy, although it is just pretty much pure pop punk, that's just kind of it. That's just kind of it for that song. Whereas this song has a lot that I actually really like about this song. And I think I would put this song on just to listen to by itself, where I wouldn't for Good Guy.
Well, the chorus is definitely awesome, and I would say it's probably the most like one of the most unique songs on the album because I feel like it blends a lot of what I kind of like in some songs, but it's also more pop punky, so it really makes it catchy.
Yeah, when I was first listening to it, it reminded me a lot of Careful What You Wish For, but it was also just better.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's definitely it just misses my top three, but it's definitely sitting at number four after putting some thought into it.
Yeah, and it's also a great closer too.
Yeah, it's chill when it wants to be chill, and then it gets pop punky when it wants to get pop punky. And yeah,
Like
and
the biggest thing for a closing track to me is like needs a little bit of chillness to let you know that like this is the end, so be careful, but it has to be like epic and big for one final send off, so you remember the album. The problem I think with a lot of like modern albums, just because CDs and physical media is not as big as it once was, is that like I feel like just throw songs together and the closing track, like you listen to it and then you're done listening to the album or EP and you're like, wait, I feel like there should be more. Like it didn't feel like that was a closing song, but this feels like a closing song, and I really appreciate that.
it does feel like a closing song. I agree with you. Um, and the song is called "Standing on the Beach," and I think it actually gives a pretty good vibe of like summertime, the beach.
Like end of summer almost.
Yeah, because it is a pretty sad song. So definitely like the end of summer. But yeah, it gives off that like end of summer like beach vibe. Like maybe you met a girl on the beach, but it's time to go home, so like it's sad.
It's not like sad or depressing, but it's sad that it's ending, but you're happy that it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that kind of sad.
It's like bittersweet where you're like, that was an epic summer. But you always have fond memories of it though. It's not like cross my heart sad where it's like, Adam, what happened, my boy?
Yeah, that man was going through some shit.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that because that was the first time I listened to an album in quite some time where I'm like, this, or like a more recent album that came out where I'm like, this is a closing song and I'm happy about it. And it doesn't do the cop out where it's like an acoustic song or like a cheap, like slow song.
Oh yeah,
'Cause,
dude. I'm not. I don't hate acoustic songs, but I'm really not a fan of acoustic songs, especially when they close out the album.
like, I want something that's like epic sounding like this. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I can't say I hate acoustic because I've been listening to Dashboard Confessional and like most of his early work is just him and his acoustic guitar being a whiny emo boy from South Florida. But yeah, but I like this though. It's like a epic chorus, big chorus with just a faint of sadness that you're gonna be missing something, but you're happy it happened with the you know what I mean? So it's great. I love it.
Don't be sad it's over. Be happy that it happened.
Exactly. So is there anything else you want to talk about standing on the beach?
No, I think that actually about sums it up. And yeah, that is Never Look Back by Goldfinger. Overall, I think I would actually give it probably an 8 out of 10. Definite improvement over The Knife. I would probably give The Knife like a 6.5 out of 10. Because like I said, I didn't dislike The Knife, but it didn't feel like true Goldfinger, probably as evidenced by the fact that it was really only John Feldman from the original lineup. Um, I don't know if I would rank Never Look Back higher than Disconnection Notice, because that is my favorite Goldfinger album, but definitely, definitely an improvement over The Knife. How about yourself? How would you rank this?
That's a good question. Uh I'm definitely happy it came out because most like new albums where it feels like where old bands are coming out with it, it's like feels like more like you happy they came out with an album, but like it's more like, well, this exists. I feel for the sake of existing, but like the knife, I'm not the knife, not God forbid, no, not the knife. But Never Look Back feels like legitimate improvement to the Goldfinger discography. Like it feels like no matter what era of Goldfinger you like, you should be a fan of this album, and it gives you something new. If you love old Goldfinger, well, Charlie's back, and you also have Mike Herrera doing some vocal tracks, and that's really cool. And if you like new Goldfinger, like Open Your Eyes and I forget the 2005 album.
Disconnection Notice.
Yeah, that's it. That it's like a return to that sound, but it's not like, and it just feels, it feels like a continuation of that, and plus Mike Herrera, and it's really cool. And it's not like the knife where it's like, okay, this is definitely supposed to be for more Coppice or All Time Low or 5 Seconds of Summer, but John Feldman just wants to make a quick buck.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I would agree with like all of that. Because I think a lot of albums that I heard from pop punk bands in 2020, because there was actually a lot of good music in 2020, but a lot of it weirdly came from rappers trying pop punk. But a lot of 2020 albums that came like from actual pop punk bands were all like pretty safe, samey albums where it's like, cool, I'm glad they're still doing stuff, but like, it's not really anything that's gonna go in the regular rotation. But Never Look Back, I think there is songs that are gonna make it in my regular rotation. Unfortunately, because they surprise released the album just last week, it missed the deadline for my top songs of 2020 album or my top songs of 2020 playlist. Again, it is late at night when we're recording this. I apologize. Um, but yeah, so these songs did unfortunately miss my top songs of 2020 playlist, but I think a couple of these are probably going to make the 2021 playlist because I just genuinely really enjoy this album. And I think it actually did change my opinion on John Feldman a little bit. Because it did, as I said, I never like hated him. I know he's just a man trying to chase his bag, and I always disclaim that. But it's always getting to the point now where, like, when a pop punk band I like, when they announce they're going to be working with John Feldman, I'm like, oh, because I know it's going to be like his production style. He's probably going to have like 90% of the control, and just like little traces of the band's unique sound is going to be thrown in, and that's like
And just
about
a
it.
little bit of fan service just to be like, hey, this is what they liked. Here's some of it. Treat your here's a bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this I think
Like
kind of
it
changed my opinion on John Feldman a little bit because it made me look, and that's when I found out he also produced that Jaden song that I really like, and that again doesn't sound like your typical John Feldman song.
yes,
It actually kind of has its own vibe to it a little bit. So I
and
think it definitely changed my opinion a little bit on his like production style. I'm still not really a fan of New School Blink, but again, I don't really blame John Feldman for that. I blame Mark Hoppus for
yeah,
hiring John Feldman.
I won't like New School Blink until Tom DeLonge comes back. But this is about Goldfinger, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed how like I just like the tone, like the production quality of this album. That it
Well,
just
yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
sound.
if you take away, like, John Feldman albums are always produced very well. I don't ever have an issue with the actual quality. It's usually just the fact that he mainly becomes the primary songwriter for every album he produces.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the quality, it's always produced very well. And yeah, if Never Look Back has anything to go on, then maybe future John Feldman produced albums might not feel so like samey, so like generic pop punk new school blinky.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, definitely feels like a it definitely feels like this gives you a legitimate addition to the Goldfinger discography, and not just okay, this is Goldfinger making an album for Goldfinger fans. And it is, but it's like it feels real.
Yeah, it feels like Goldfinger, whereas the knife just felt like okay, here's John Feldman, and it really it's a John Feldman supergroup at that point. It was John Feldman from Goldfinger, and then I already named them all earlier in the podcast, so I'm not going to do that again. But it's a John Feldman supergroup, The Knife. And I mean, it still is kind of supergroupy because the only person that left from that lineup is Travis Barker, but with Charlie coming back and with Travis leaving and them getting Nick Gross on the drums, it feels less supergroupy. It feels more Goldfingery.
Yeah.
So
For that, I appreciate it, and it gets my official seal of check it out and listen to it. Might like
yeah,
it.
I agree. Yeah, I would definitely say if you're a Goldfinger fan, even if you didn't really like The Knife, I would still say check this out because I think it has enough going for it. There's definitely songs that I would see on The Knife on this album, but even if you didn't like The Knife, I definitely think there's enough on this album for you to still enjoy. And if you're just a general pop punk fan, it might be a little too ska-ish for you because there is a lot more ska songs on this album than there was on The Knife. But there's still plenty of really good pop punk on this album that's produced very well because it's produced by John Feldman.
Yeah, so
Do you have anything else you want to say?
no, I'm just saying it's good to know that an old band is making an album that feels like it belongs with them and just doesn't feel like
Yeah, it's nice to see
fat.
them. Yeah, it's nice that it's not just like a safe, samey album.
Yeah, because I mean, as you obviously know, I love Newfound Glory. They're my all-time favorite band, and they'll always continue to be my all-time favorite band. But like forever plus ever times infinity, that's when I first realized that like safe isn't good because it's like it just feels like okay, this is Newfound Glory, and they have like 2 or 3 songs that I might put in like a constant rotation, but like if it wasn't the new album, I would never have like listened to it. Like there's like no excitement around it.
Yeah.
Like but like Goldfinger, like maybe because my expectations were like extremely low because as anybody who listens to this regularly, I have been quite a critic of John Feldman esque music, not John Feldman himself, but the music he does. And this was a pleasant surprise. And just from like other previous releases of bands I loved, like the Movie Life's most like recent album post like breakup in '03 is just like I don't like it, or Alistair's 2 albums they released post breakup have just been kind of what my Newfound Glory things were like. That's not bad, but it's like I'd rather just listen to Last Stop Suburbia. But like Goldfinger Never Look Back doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like okay, this is a return to sound, but you might as well just listen to what you've been listening to since 2001. It feels like a legitimate good addition to their discography.
Couldn't have said it any better myself.
I commend that for them because when you get to that many albums and you've been a band for 20 plus years, it's hard to really change without pissing a lot of people off. And I feel like they did not do that. And I applaud them.
You
And
know,
that's all I got
I
to say.
guess almost in some ways it's probably pretty good that The Knife happened then because like The Knife is, obviously The Knife has its own unique sound because it's just a John Feldman sound, which probably isn't very unique, but it makes it unique because it's the only Goldfinger album that really sounds like that. And then it makes this album unique too because it's got traces of that, while also traces of like, both the ska Goldfinger and the pop punk Goldfinger mixed together with the John Feldman production Goldfinger.
Yes, and they do.
Makes it stand on its own from the rest.
Yeah, and they do what I always say is the best thing for a band when they're making new music. They keep it the same where you don't where current fans will still listen and like it a lot, but you add just enough to give them or change just a bit to give them a reason to go to this album and not be like, okay, I listened to it 1 or 2 times. I'm putting back on Open Your Eyes.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, because like when both of us talk about making a safe album, right, and like how I think we both pretty much have the same opinion. Like it's not bad, but it's better to like try new things than evolve. And I think we both mean like you don't have to do something drastic. Like I don't need Goldfinger album 9 being a fucking metalcore album. But yeah, like just yeah, something like Never Look Back where it's got traces of all three of Goldfinger's sounds. The John Feldman production, the pop punk and the ska. And like, like in Newfound Glory's case, like it would be cool if, they cuz they kind of like in the past they rotated between like something a little more heavy and a little more easy chorus to something a little more like power poppy. But this time around they kind of didn't. They just kind of put out like a really safe pop punk album.
Yeah, like it's just a straight up just like it reminds me a lot of Radio Surgery, where it's just like not bad. None of it's bad. Far from it. To quote a video game, it's like the new Super Mario Bros. Games where they're not bad. They're very fine games, but there's just nothing there. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah. But
All same.
With Goldfinger, I don't think that's the case.
But the Newfound Glory album I'm talking about
No,
with the newest one.
I know you're talking about Newfound Glory. I was just trying to like just kind of like apply it to the album we're reviewing. With Goldfinger, that's definitely not the case at all.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's like I said, it's the perfect blend of you keep just enough, you also expand on it or change things up just a smidge, just to be like, well, if I want to listen to this, I listen to this. It's not like, oh, this exists, but it's just not as good as 2002. And it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Agreed.
So so good for Goldfinger and good for
Yeah.
John Feldman for being 53 and still doing that thing.
Yeah, cheers to Goldfinger for making really good album. Something that actually, I don't know if it's because my expectations are low, but it shattered my expectations.
Yes.
So good for them. But I could go on and on about this, but we've already been going for an hour and a half, so I think that's probably a good place to end it.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching or listening, because we're gonna be, as of the time of this recording, it's not on Spotify yet, but we are going to be putting these episodes on Spotify in the future. And obviously, if you're listening to this on Spotify, we've already done it. So thank you for watching or listening or whatever. New episodes every Tuesday at noon. And if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. That helps us out so much. If you're on Spotify, I think you can follow the podcast. And you can also like the individual episodes. That helps us out too. And yeah, we will catch you guys next Tuesday. Peace.
See ya.